Thank you for joining me today for the May 2022 VIP workshop. Today's topic is marketing playbook for accounting and tax firms. My name is Lee Reams. I am the founder and CEO of CountingWorks Pro, and I am happy to talk about this subject. A lot of the elements in here we've talked about in previous webinars, but we're going to try to give you a summary that gives you a few takeaways, at least understand what's really important, what you should focus on, and kind of what we do for you as well. So today's agenda, we'll go through an introduction. We'll talk about the importance of content marketing and the 5-step framework to producing stellar content. 1, knowing your clients. 2, identifying your clients' pain points. 3, define your value proposition. 4, address client roadblocks. And 5, make them an offer they can't refuse. And then we'll have a conclusion at the end. So let's talk a little bit about this webinar. It is approximately 30 to 40 minutes long. There is no CPE credit for this session. This workshop is designed for US-based small tax and accounting practices. However, any other business or practice may benefit. So as an introduction, welcome to our May VIP workshop, and let's get started. So in any industry like accounting and tax services, trust can be a difficult thing to attain. The ways in which accounting and tax professionals engage with their clients and potential clients are quickly changing in both tone and strategy. So just think of how we manage taxes today versus 20 years ago, before the rise of mobile applications, secure online networks, and access to digital platforms. Basically the pandemic pushed forward a lot of this transition. What may have taken 5 to 10 years happened in a very compressed standpoint. And now, as we hopefully are coming out of the pandemic, a lot of those changes are here for good. So a lot of clients may have moved away. A lot of people are working remotely or in hybrid situations. So there's going to be a lot of differences than the way things were, even 2-3 years ago. So it is important to see these digital shifts. And in the most important part, I think, is the opportunities, right? So the ability to reach a wider audience via digital tools like websites, social channels, and generating customer referrals has become much more attainable. So there are certainly plenty of options available to accounting and tax professionals when developing a marketing strategy, but none of these options are as powerful and as effective as leveraging content. And even on as CountingWorks Pro, kind of the way we are shifting our focus, we are going all in on content marketing. We have found our most effective channels are where we can engage our community. We can educate you through webinars, podcasts, our blog articles, whether it be through social media, even LinkedIn posts. We have found that engaging our audience is helping us grow much faster than what I'll call even legacy marketing techniques we used some years ago. So let's get into content marketing, explaining what it is and kind of the best practices on how to use it. So content marketing is not a strategy anymore. So back, a few years ago, hey, let's create some blog articles, let's drive some organic traffic, and then start nurturing them to convert. I would go as far to say as if you're not using content marketing to help grow your practice, you're going to be falling behind, year after year. So content marketing isn't a new concept, but it's an extremely valuable way for an accounting or tax firm to earn trust of their audience. And one of the ways you need to think about this is not everyone comes in as an intent buyer. The prospects are at a different level in the client journey. So meaning they may not know they have a problem yet. They may know they have a problem. They're starting to research, how to solve that problem. And it takes them a while to go from kind of the identifying, consider to the intent stage, right? So the idea is that you can start using your content marketing to establish yourself as the expert in the field. And in some ways, your content will start pre-selling your practice and your services to these prospects as they engage in your content. And the idea here is that you want to slowly but steadily use your content marketing to bring them closer to the intent stage where they're ready to actually hire you and engage you. So many otherwise savvy professionals make the mistake of believing that the content marketing strategy that worked for another firm will also work for them. The truth is a lot of factors go into determining whether your particular strategy will be successful. So creating content can seem like a scary, overwhelming task. especially if you've never done it before, if you have no idea what type of content your audience would like. So more so, content marketing is by no means a set it and forget it kind of concept. We've been doing a lot of the content creation for many of our clients through our library. We produce 20 some articles a month for you guys in your blogs and social media posts. Obviously many more curates, 50 posts, whatever we're doing for you guys now on social. But the reality is there's a lot of opportunities, especially when firms start positioning themselves or niching down to create content that's much more specific than some of the content we're creating. And there's many opportunities there. So to the contrary, you have to put a real concerted effort into getting your content seen and, more importantly, shared. But there's no reason to fear. We put together a proven formula for creating content that converts. So let's get into this. The 5-step framework to producing stellar content. Step 1, know your clients. And I think a lot of tax and accounting firms, because you are generalist, this part becomes more difficult. So meaning when we call people generalists, the traditional accounting, CPA, enrolled agent firm, you hang your shingle, you start bringing in new clients, whether that be for referrals, other word of mouth, you're out there grinding away, trying to find people. But the reality is each new client that comes in, whether it be a business or, an individual, their backgrounds are completely different. Each business you might have 25, 30 clients that are business clients, but only a couple of them might be in the same niche. So each new client that you bring in, you have to kind of relearn what are their pain points, what are the KPIs that they need to know. And that makes it more difficult when you get to the stage. If you are following our advice on positioning and niching down, it's much easier then to figure out, okay, who is my client and what do they care about? So let's talk about step 1. So in order to create compelling content that your audience wants, it's important to know who your audience is. So understand and develop your ideal client. So it's not just about looking at your current clients and saying, oh, this is that client, I want to create messaging around them or for them. You want to make sure that is the client that you want to scale with. You want to find 100 versions of that client and develop content around them. So definitely match your, when you go through this process, I would say, is just make sure you're matching with your ideal client, not just any client. So what's their age, interest, occupation? You're basically building a persona here. And then create content exclusively for them. And we even go as far as building out a 8.5 by 11 with the different personas that we go after, with pictures. What do they look like? Bullet points, demographic information. What are their fears? What are their pain points? What are the things they're looking to resolve? And that helps us kind of target our content around them. So for everything from client acquisition to retention should go back and reference your ideal client. And so we'll give you an example here. If your ideal client is a 55-year-old professional nearing retirement, it's probably not a good idea to create a blog post on how to set up your first 401k, right? It might be too late. That's probably they're already past that stage. So however, creating a short video on how to boost your retirement savings when you're within a decade of retiring will probably hit home with your audience, okay? So I think that's a perfect example where your messaging is more to the stage in life they are versus someone who's setting up their first 401k. Hopefully we're writing that article for targeting people in their 20s and 30s, right? Who are just starting to make some money versus now, hey, you're 55. We have 10, 20, 15 years left. How can you save as maximize your savings? And obviously a 401k could be part of that, but not necessarily the subject matter of that first content. So I hope that clarifies, it kind of makes sense to you. So how can you develop your ideal client type? And the short answer is research. From surveys to interviews to candid conversations, here are some practical ways to gather information surrounding your client type. So 1, review your client records to see if you can easily spot any trends on how prospects or clients find and digest your content. So you can do this if you're looking at Google Analytics, if you track how people come in as clients. Those are kind of areas where you can start saying, okay, is there any trend here on where, is there certain blog articles, for example, that people are reading that are more popular than others? That might help you identify, well, there might be some personas here that are worth targeting and scaling that content for. So 2, start asking new clients how they first discovered your firm. Was it a referral from an existing client, or perhaps they spotted an ad or stumbled upon your social media Obviously, if your website is ranking page 1, a lot of that traffic would go through Google and their organic traffic. So, but you want to be able to track all this, right? So just don't, when any new client onboards, you want to know where they came from. So inquire what makes your current clients happy and continue to stay with your firm. You can use surveys. We use SurveyMonkey as an easy tool to use. You could use the same. Use this to help frame your value to your clients. And then take this research to identify patterns and drive your content creation to meet the needs of this ideal client. So if the example we have, let's go to businesses. So let's say you have 25 business clients now, but 10 of them are in the medical profession, whether they be doctors, dentists, chiropractors, or whatever. You'd be able to say, okay, these are a block of clients I would like to continue working with. How did they find me? What kind of content can I create that would add value and speak specifically to this client? So when they come to your site, you want them to know specifically and quickly this information, this blog article, for example, this video, whatever it is, this podcast is written and created specifically for me. So if I'm going to spend some of my valuable time reading it, I know that it pertains to me. So that's kind of the reason you develop content that way. So step 2, what your ideal client's biggest challenge is. So this is actually digging a little bit deeper now that you've identified what is it? What is their biggest pain point? If they're busy, we'll stay on the doctor's office. Is their issue cash flow or getting invoices out quickly, getting paid faster? Can you help identify ways that a medical practice can get paid faster and improve cash flow? Those would be articles and content that you would write directly around that. So ask yourself, what keeps them up at night? Are they looking for an accounting or tax pro they can develop a deeper relationship with and create content around that? Okay. Are they interested in transitioning from a current accounting or tax pro to a new one? So that's where content could be created more for, hey, are you having issues? Did your past accountant drop the ball? These are X steps that you can take to transition to a new accountant, or these are steps that you should use when choosing and identifying a new pro to trust. Okay. So are they looking for advice on a particular subject, like payroll or something else? So that's another way that you can help identify the pain points and what you need to talk about. And so, for example, payroll, especially many businesses right now with clients, or not clients, but employees that are in multi-states, as much as, ADPs and the Gustos of the world have automated a lot of the processes, there's still all kinds of government compliance issues and due dates and things that they need to run through that they're just not familiar with. So that'd be an area you could create content around. Those are pain points keeping them up at night. They Google that, they find your article, and they're more likely to converse with you. So you're not sure what your client's biggest challenge is, then don't worry. Here are a few places you can start. So what are your clients saying online? And this is where you can use keyword searching. You can find out what the trending keywords are. So another way to do this is you can search on popular accounting and tax blogs now and find the most common questions and complaints. So you'll be able to, and this can be done on social media. You can see this on Twitter as well. You just start visiting different groups and just see what the questions are. See what people are saying. See what people are asking. That could give you ideas on the content creation, what pain points they're facing right now. Pay attention to the news. When big events take place, it can spur an influx of people searching for help. We have in our own content strategy and on our own team, you can develop and take advantage of these trending, timely articles. In our business, a lot of times it's going to be tax law changes. But at this point, there's economic news, there's inflation worries, there's all these trending areas of content or topics that content can be created around. It's an easy way to develop content. And if you're niching down and specializing, start following specific trade associations. And is there any breaking news there? Are there any survey results? So there's a lot of content that is created through surveys. Those publishers want you to reference them. It obviously brings and drives business to them. But that's a great way to figure out, or take advantage basically of things that are moving on and a lot of people are reading. So that's going to have a lot of inbound organic search content. There's a lot of search volume for that. That's where you can get a lot of visitors in a short period of time. You can also browse social media channels is, I kind of mentioned this, but hashtags. There might be some trending hashtags that you can gather and start looking at and seeing what those conversations are. And then what kind of groups there are. Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups are not as popular. Maybe there's a niche that you're in. Facebook groups seem to be the most popular, but you can a lot of times see what prospective and current clients are talking about. And when it comes to, let's just talk about Twitter and hashtags. Hashtags are big on LinkedIn as well now. But if you go to Tax Twitter, we participate a lot with our Tax Buzz chat there. But there's a lot of conversations going on daily about challenges accountants are facing or their clients are facing. So there's a lot of different ideas that you can gather from there. But, hashtag tax code, tax law change, whatever, tax reform. So those are just some examples for you. Do some competitor research. It's always a good idea to know what pain points or competition or other firms in the area are addressing. They may have identified a specialty, for example, that they're putting a lot of effort in. The reason they're doing that is probably because it's being effective. So, maybe there's 3 or 4 firms that you think are firms that practices that you compete with regularly. They might have some ideas for your content creation. And what you can do is you can find an article that perhaps is ranking well that's on a competitor's website, and you can just make that article better. You can have more details. You can do a little more cross-linking between other articles. You can add the word count, and Google will reward you when you create content that way. And what you're going to do is once your article, or at least Google perceives your article to be more authoritative, you'll start ranking above them. So it's a great way to identify what content is already ranking well and getting traffic, and how to basically beat them at their same game. So if you're tech savvy, take a look at your website analytics or perform a Google keyword search. We do this often in our own content creation for you, but this is something where you'll be able to identify the most popular search phrases that you can create content to directly address. You'll also be able to identify trends, things that people are talking about, that you can somehow come up with an angle that is somewhat related. So for example, we just put together, there was a big lottery winner in Arizona, the state of Arizona. So we threw together an article about the tax consequences of winning the lottery and the tax consequences of winning the lottery in Arizona. So that's an example of how we found some keywords, things that were searching, articles that were getting a lot of reads, and we created content around it and took advantage of the trends. So the other way is simply ask your clients. Use a survey. I mentioned SurveyMonkey. That's what we use to gather valuable insight into what challenges them most. We have done this with our own client base. We try to hit you guys up, probably 3 times a year. We leave you alone during tax season, but we identified quite a few opportunities in the way we're developing our 3.0 platform based on those surveys. We found out what percentage of clients are still using paper-based workflows, and what areas that clients, or at least CPAs and accountants, wanted to digitize. So there's some great information that we gathered from there, and it helped us basically kind of put together a roadmap of, which direction we wanted to go with the product. So whatever the challenge is, your content should highlight it and speak to it in an understanding and empathetic way. Step 3, how their life would change if you fix the problem. So how can you drive a better financial outcome? How can you help them sleep at night? How can you help them have a better work-life balance? Those are the kind of things that we're trying to resolve. So after identifying the problem, what would happen if you solved it? Would they save more hours? Would they make more money? Would they be able to spend more time with their family? Would they be able to go on more vacations? Those are, very good results. And, in order to truly deliver high value to your clients, the first thing you need to do is solve their problem in an innovative way that works exactly for them. So define the value you are adding to their life. I just gave you a bunch of examples there. But this is really important. This is an area I think a lot of accountants miss. They're not as marketing savvy, and it's definitely an exercise that would be worth going through and kind of figuring out. So help your audience see themselves in the shoes of the person they want to be, or in a place they want to be. So this is aspirational marketing. It's emotional, right? So you want to paint a picture, and we like using storytelling, narratives, and explain in detail how your ideal client situation would change once they accepted your solution. So, you're basically showing them the end result. And it basically makes it easier. There's less risk. If they feel that I will see this ROI, it takes the risk out of the decision to hire you or perhaps change accounting firms, right? This is also a great place to start differentiating your services and expertise in the market. I like positioning here. I think position firms, those that focus exclusively on a specific service or niche, or even a expat taxes or expat taxes in Israel. That is expat taxes is the main, and you have a sub market where you niche down even more. You could become the expert in just that one country of expats that live in Israel, and probably do more business than if you try to be an expat to the entire world. An expat tax firm, I'm just giving you an example. So, but that is kind of the idea of if you then spoke to that audience and had imagery that speaks directly to them, and the end result, why it's more important to work with you than someone who's a generalist expat, you're probably going to win that comparison more than losing it, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to explain here. Step 4, what's standing in their way? So what is making it so they won't what do they feel there's risky? What is stopping them from making this decision? Because obviously they're going to have a better result. Why aren't they doing it now? So in today's competitive market, there's always hesitation or a little voice of doubt in the back of your prospect's mind. It's almost decision overload is another way to think about it, but don't take it personally. This is your opportunity to ease that worry proactively by addressing what that hurdle is and how to overcome it. So this means delivering a one-of-a-kind client experience, providing exceptional service, and developing a long-term relationship with each client. So most importantly, you can reduce hesitation by being honest and genuine with prospects. So if you've been following our previous VIP workshops, we had our discovery call method, I guess, and we teach you how to go through a call and just be completely honest, set the stage, ask certain open-ended questions to get the kind of pull the information, but you're qualifying the prospect as much as they're qualifying you. You want to control the narrative. You want to be completely honest. Is there a fit or not? Let them know. Don't be afraid of your pricing. If you're a high-end price consultant, or if you're only offering virtual CFO services, let them know it, right? You want to do that. You want to be completely honest. I think people appreciate that. So most of the time when you shine light into that little dark spots, it turns out it's nothing. So meaning a high price. Maybe it's something you're worried about. But if someone is buying in, they may go above their threshold of what they thought they would pay, basically on your, while you're addressing these different roadblocks. Step 5, make them an offer they can't refuse. So at the end of the day, conversions are one of the most important metrics when it comes to content. So basically, out of 100 people, how many people start into a nurture, some sort of contact to you, some sort of nurture campaign? Maybe they sign up for your email newsletter. Maybe they reach out to you via your practice bot if you're using our 3.0 service. Perhaps they called you directly, set up or schedule an appointment on your calendar for a discovery call. So this means leading your audience to complete an action. We call these calls to CTAs, calls to action. So the whole idea is you want to move them further down your client acquisition funnel. So if they're starting at a blog article that is more discovering that I have a pain point versus solving and offering help to solve the problem, you're going to want a different call to action. So if they landed at one that's more like, I have a pain point, I just received a certain notice, what are my options? Versus I have a tax lien. A tax lien is an immediacy thing. The notice, they do have to reply, but they're doing more research on how to reply, right? So your call to action might be a little different between those two pieces of content. So whether this is your first impression with your prospect or you've been nurturing them for some time, each piece of content you create should have a compelling and persuasive call to action. And it's typically best to end with a strong finish. So some sort of response, that takes them to the next level. And so when you're doing content, it's typically best to end with a strong finish. and content is no driven. So present an irresistible offer. Get our free, get 25 tips on improving your cash flow. And it might be a white paper that you deliver to them. And then from there, you can take them to the next level. And you can actually send them to some new content. And that might be another white paper. And then after that, you might take them to, hey, it seems that you've been interested in improving your cash flow. Why don't you set up a free discovery call so I can talk to you in person and how, we can help you do that. So there's certain things. We also use this as well. And this is a good example here. Reply back to this email is a great way to send an email and just say, hey, if you're interested in talking about this further, just reply back. Doesn't even have to go through a complex landing page and nurture sequence. So that's sometimes we get actually more response on that technique than the more complicated way. So here's a few examples of strong CTAs that are proven to convince people to act. I like more the start saving. Let's connect. Let's talk about your financial goals. Something that is an actionable item versus like click button or click now, those kind of things. So something that has action in it. Get help now. That is an action. I can get that help. So those are things that I think are more successful than some of the generic buttons. So think about that. Whatever the offer is, make sure it correlates with the subject at hand. A good formula for creating a strong CTA is to combine a powerful action verb with a reason. And don't forget, always be testing your CTAs. Try different color combinations, word placement, et cetera. There's always room for improvement. We do a lot of A/B testing on our side and then our client sides to see what works the best. And then we just introduce those into blocks and certain things when we're designing the sites for you. When you approach content creation from a standpoint of building relationships and making connections, it's much less intimidating. So think about if it was a one-on-one human experience, so you met somebody in person, think of content creation as the same way. How would you start that conversation with someone new that might be interested in your services? What are the topics or questions you would talk about? And you're just starting to build, you're making sure that you're showcasing your expertise, but you're not in a kind of a heavy sales approach when you're making that kind of connection with the human in person, right? So why wouldn't you follow that same approach when it comes to content? So you don't have to create 20-page documents stuffed with facts and figures. That's not always what will reach your target anyways. Just be yourself, show personality, and the rest will fall into place. And if you can't figure out what your audience wants, just ask them, right? So we went over a bunch of that. So marketing can be hard. We get it. And if you have questions about meaningful content creation or the 5-step framework, contact us today at 800-442-2477, extension 3, or set up some time to speak with our digital marketing experts. We're always here to help. Of course, visit accountingworkspro.com to start learning how to take your practice to the next level. If you're a current client, you can always hit up your VIP team. We have some exciting changes coming up, actually. And some of these things will be ways that you can create your own content. We're going to give you basically some templates or themes that you can follow in creating your own content. So some exciting things that we'll be sharing in the coming months. So again, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you joining us. If you have any questions about the marketing playbook, feel free to reach out to us at help@accountingworkspro.com, and one of our experts will assist you. I appreciate it. Thank you.